Hey guys, it's Robin and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a case that I had just recently been thinking about. I have no idea where I first heard about this case. I think it might be something that I might have read about or watched a documentary on, but it has been a case that has stuck with me to this day. It really makes you think about how people just disappear into what seems like thin air. So the Springfield 3 is one of the strangest disappearances I've researched. I have my own issues with the case and I definitely think there was foul play, but first I want to talk about the victims. Of course, there were 3 victims in this case. The first was Cheryl Elizabeth Levitt, and she was 47 years old at the time of her disappearance. She was a single mother and she was a cosmetologist at a local salon. Then there was her daughter, Suzanne Elizabeth Streeter. Her nickname was Suzie. She was 19 years old at the time of her disappearance. The last victim in this case was Stacy Cathleen McCall. She was 18 years old at the time of her disappearance. On June 6, 1992, both Suzie and Stacy had graduated from their high school. They went to Kickapoo High School in Springfield, Missouri. On that day, they both had attended several graduation parties together. In fact, the last time they were seen together was around 2 a.m. on June 7th. This was when they were leaving the graduation parties just to find out where they were going to stay. The girls had originally planned to stay at a hotel in Branson, Missouri. They were planning to go to a water park called White Waters and then a theme park called Silver Dollar City the next day. They randomly decided against staying at the hotel and then had planned to stay at a friend's house. That friend was Janelle Kirby. Instead, when they had gotten there, they found that the house was overcrowded already, and so they ended up going back to Suzie's house. While no one had seen them after they made that decision to go back to Suzie's, it's believed that they had gotten home safely. The last time Cheryl Levitt, Suzie's mother, was heard from was approximately 11:15 p.m. on June 6th. She had spoken to a friend on the phone. Now, this is where everything gets pretty much messed up and suspicious, and just the actions of others kind of completely mess up this case. Let me just dive right in. So like I said earlier, the girls are supposed to go to a water park the next day. They didn't show up to their friend's house at the time they were supposed to meet up there. So when they didn't meet up at their designated time, their friend Janelle Kirby, and that's the girl they were supposed to stay at her house the day before, her and her boyfriend, they showed up to Suzie's house around 9 a.m. They just thought that maybe they had just been asleep. When they arrived at Suzie's house, they saw that all the cars were in the driveway. They walked to the door and then they saw that the porch light was shattered. So Kirby's boyfriend swept up the shattered glass pieces. This is actually really unfortunate that he did that because that could have had potential evidence. They go to the door and they see there's not a sign of anyone in the home. They only see the family dog, and the family dog, he's a little Yorkie named Cinnamon, and when they had arrived they noticed that he appeared to be frantic or agitated. Just something had upset the dog, and they couldn't explain it. During the time that Kirby and her boyfriend were inside, Kirby stated that she had answered a strange and disturbing phone call from an identified male. She said that he had made sexual innuendos and that she had hung up immediately, and then as soon as she had hung up, she received another call, same kind of call of sexual nature. And so she hung up the phone again and she left after she got those phone calls. After she left, it appears that more than 10 people were in the house, including Stacy's mom. Stacy's mom, Janice, had been attempting to get in contact with her. She had decided to go to the home to find her. She also noticed that all the cars were in the home. She also noticed that keys, clothing, makeup, jewelry, purses were in the home of all the women, including Stacy, of course. She had some kind of intuition and she called the police immediately. During the time that she was in the home, she had listened to a very strange voicemail, but she had inadvertently erased it from the tape. This also could have been possible evidence for this case, and I find it really unfortunate that so many people were in the house and in and out of the scene or the possible crime scene before police could even, step one foot on there. Because honestly, if those people hadn't been all in the potential crime scene, then there could have been evidence that could have helped find these women. So like I was saying, after the police arrived, the crime scene had pretty much been corrupted by everyone who had been in the house. Besides the broken porch light, there was no sign of a struggle and all their belongings were there. So it seems like there wasn't really any evidence besides that shattered porch light and the phone calls, but you know, all that evidence is kind of screwed up by everyone else. Despite there being a lack of evidence, all things point to foul play. There was nothing stolen, as there were clearly, you know, the keys, cars, money, purses, things that people would normally steal were all still there. Suzie and Cheryl, they had smoked, their cigarettes were there. Stacy had migraines and she didn't have her medication with her. The family's dog was there. I mean, I feel like they didn't take anything with them, so I don't think they just all decided to leave, you know, on their own accord. I'm gonna guess that they were taken against their will. For motives, it's really hard to say. This case, all three women, they genuinely disappeared without a trace. There are just so many questions I have. Did the neighbors hear or see anything? Why was there no sign of forced entry? Was it something they knew or someone they knew? The girls had planned to stay at a friend's house that night. So was Cheryl the real target? You know, how was the home, the crime scene left so clean? It just doesn't make sense to me. Three women are not just gonna go without a fight unless there's like maybe multiple people involved. Keep them quiet. I don't think it was one person, unless, you know, I can see if they had like a weapon, like a gun, but still all three women to go missing like that, it just seems almost impossible. So let's just get into leads. The first lead is Cheryl's son and of course Susie's brother. He had a bad relationship with the family. He had moved away years and years ago, then he returned right back to Springfield in 1991. He was looked into as one of the first suspects, but eventually he was tossed out. I'm guessing their investigation just led to him not being a suspect, but it is very strange that like a year before they go missing that he came back into town. So there was also another lead. That was Susie's ex-boyfriend. His name was Dustin Reckler, and then there was also his friend Michael Clay. When Suzie and Dustin were dating, the men were charged with vandalizing a mausoleum. They were stealing gold teeth from corpses, just stealing things off of dead bodies, and they made a profit by selling items at pawn shops. So of course when Suzie found out about all this and found out about the charges, she broke up with Dustin. Now, there are multiple reports that say both Dustin and Michael were angry and bitter about the situation. There were several reports that Michael said, "I wish that all these women were dead," like the woman that had disappeared. But you know, they gave alibis for the night of their disappearance and it was never confirmed, but I'm just thinking they don't have enough evidence to really convict them. So outside of people who were close to the girls and had potential motive to harm them, the police were getting thousands and thousands of tips. There was one tip from Florida that gave them the name Robert Craig Cox. He was charged of multiple abductions and assaults of women in 1985. He was again connected to a Florida case in which he was convicted with the murder of a woman. He was placed on the death penalty. And the family of the murdered woman, they had kept track of him, and then they had sent that tip in because they realized that he moved to Springfield in 1992. The coincidence is there, but he was interviewed and had an alibi being with his girlfriend at, you know, the day of the disappearance. His girlfriend confirmed this at that time. So 3 years later, he's locked up again for aggravated robbery. The girlfriend then recants her statement and says that he had threatened her at that time. He is still a prime suspect on this case, and I just find it really crazy, you know, like, just people being untruthful kind of like mess up this case. And I feel like it's really suspect, like just the timing of him being in Springfield and having a history of being in place, like place to place and committing all these crimes and murder, robbery. It just really suspect to me. So the fact that he's a prime suspect, it's like great, but it's like there's no evidence. He even stated this exact quote: "I can't tell you, but I know the three women are dead, and I know the person who committed the crime, and they had experience, and they were buried close to Springfield." It hasn't been figured out if he was being honest or truthful, or if this is something, you know, real, or if he was just toying with the police because he had a history and a track record of just toying with the police. Then there was the last real rumor. This kind of suggested that their bodies were buried under the parking lot of Cox Hospital. There is lots of speculation on this. Could it be true? Could it not be true? But a mechanical engineer, he actually scanned under the hospital and he found that there were 3 anomalies similar to what he's found in graveyards. So this means that, you know, possibly they could be underneath the parking lot. But of course, police don't want to dig up a whole parking lot just because of that, because it would cost so much money and, you know, involve so many resources. But I honestly think that'd be really sad if they were buried under there. This case in general just really bothers me, and it really irritates me that so much of the evidence was ruined by the friends and family. I kind of find that really suspect, but I cannot imagine a whole group of people coming together to harm their friends and their friend's mom, you know. Especially with Stacy's mom. Honestly, the police believe that the voicemail that she had gotten could have been like huge evidence, and that it wasn't actually even connected to anything that Janelle Kirby had, you know, heard before with the call she had got. They didn't think it was even connected. They just thought that it was its own separate thing and could have been pretty big for the case. But, you know, they can't use it because they don't have any evidence of what was said on there. This wasn't just one person. Like, it's bad enough when it's one person that goes missing, but when it's 3, that's just like overkill. And so for them to go missing without a trace, it's just, it blows my mind. It honestly blows my mind. That's all I really have for this case. I could honestly talk about it for days and days. I might make a theories video for this particular case because there are lots of theories out there that I've seen and heard and that I've like also put my 2 cents in on. And so maybe I'll just film something for you guys, like giving you guys theories and just talking about it. But for now, that's all. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And as always, I love you guys and I will see you next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.